Welcome to the latest MS Hear from the Experts webinar. This series is helping people better understand multiple sclerosis, highlights MS-related resources, plus provides tools and tips to navigate their MS journey with more knowledge and confidence. Our intention is to help you learn more about the disease, treatments, research, wellness strategies, our programs, and so much more. I'm Lori Murphy. I am MS Canada staff. I am the education specialist, and I'm your moderator for today's broadcast. Before we get started with our presenter, let's briefly go over a couple of housekeeping items. Your microphones have been muted and will remain muted for the entirety of the broadcast. If you have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible following the formal part of the presentation. Please note that questions pertaining to specific personal situations likely cannot be answered in this type of venue, and we recommend contacting your personal MS healthcare team or perhaps contacting the MS Knowledge Network for those questions. This session is being recorded and will be available soon on our website in English. We will also add French subtitles to the recording, but that version won't be available for several weeks. The recordings will be available on our website under archived webinars and on our YouTube channel. A Facebook Live recording will also be available. Please note that MS Canada does not approve, endorse, or recommend any specific product, therapy, or service, but instead provides information to assist individuals in making their own health and wellness decisions. Today's broadcast is an opportunity to learn more about enhancing your wellness by getting support for your mental health and emotional well-being. Your physical and mental health often go hand in hand. During this webinar, you will learn tips for how to manage your mental health when living with a chronic illness and learn more about the resources offered to you through MS Canada Community. Today's expert is Christina Myers. She is a licensed professional counselor with a Bachelor of Science degree in multicultural studies with an emphasis in rehabilitation. She also holds a Master of Professional Counseling with an emphasis in vocational rehabilitation from the Stephen F. Austin State University in the United States. Christina has experience providing counseling services to individuals of all stages of life and in a variety of audiences within the community. She has training in trauma-informed care and utilizes a collaborative and compassionate approach to counseling, which fosters resilience, hope, and healing. Christina stands by the proverb, "We can't change the direction of the wind, but we can adjust the sails." Please join me in welcoming Christina to today's webinar.
Thank you so much, Lori. So welcome, everybody. Again, I'm Christina Myers. I am a licensed professional associate in the state of Texas. I'm supervised by Dr. Leanne Solomonson. The reason why I have to introduce myself that way is I am still working towards my full licensure of 3,000 hours. But I want you guys to know I have been in this field for quite a while. I have 15 years of critical care experience as a respiratory therapist. I've also had the privilege and honor to work for an organization, non-for-profit here in the United States, helping people overcome any barriers or difficulties, not only for their mental health, but also entering the workforce. So let's go ahead and get started. There I am. I was so proud of that one, guys. This is my first headshot I ever got to take, so I'm glad they used this one. As you can see, here are my credentials, as we already spoken about. So let's go ahead and get into it. So how does chronic illness really impact overall health and well-being? I'm sure you guys on y'all's end really do understand that that is simply a no-brainer, right? When you have a chronic illness, it doesn't only impact your well-being and daily living. It impacts those people around you, how you look at your future, how you look at your present. And so making sure that you develop whatever skills needed to help you live the most of your day and the most of your life and just be present in everyday moments. It's a very important and valuable skill to learn. So, one thing I want to talk to you guys about is something called the wellness wheel. We all have 8 dimensions to the wellness wheel, as you can see on the slide. One is occupational. The next is spiritual, intellectual, physical, emotional, environmental, social, and financial. All aspects of this wheel helps you balance into the person that you want to be, to have overall well-being. When you have a chronic illness or an illness that causes you maybe not to have the mobility or causes you to have to use different skill sets to succeed in what you're wanting to do, it really can impact what kind of occupation that you could have, or maybe an occupation you might need to change into. In later slides, I'm going to share with you guys some valuable sites that can help you look at things just a little bit differently when you think of occupations. With a chronic illness, this is one of my favorites, is your spiritual aspect. Whether it be based in religion or based on whatever you find strength in, it's an important part to hone that and use that as a source of strength for you as you're kind of committing to having a great perspective and a positive attitude towards your critical illness. When you have the intellectual and physical and emotional side of it, those are things that utilize a lot of support from others, support and belief in yourself. And when you look at the environmental side of it, I usually get very passionate. And when you meet Dr. Patrick, I'm really big into how you need to become an advocate for yourself, no matter what your chronic illness is. You have to learn to find your voice. You have to learn that instead of asking permission to be the person you want to be or the person you are or discover the new person that you could become, environment is there, but it needs to fit into you. Just because you have a chronic illness or a barrier doesn't mean that you can't. So, being part of every environment, be it the workplace, be it in a school setting or in your community, environment is so very important. And the social aspect. I get to facilitate a support group through SESH. And one of the reasons why I love being a facilitator is because it can pull people together. And you get that social aspect that is so very important to overall wellness when you have a chronic illness. In my past, in my critical care setting as a respiratory therapist, one of the biggest things I found is that a lot of my patients suffered from just lack of connection. Hence, depression would set in, or the negative aspect of wanting to think positively about their future. The social side is so very important in overall wellness and your mental health. It's very easy to become isolated, or it's very easy to believe that, what do I have to look forward to? But trust me, preparing and having the right attitude and taking care of yourself and those around you, that well-being will come. And also the other one I'd like to touch on the wellness wheel is financial. Oh my goodness. I can imagine what you guys are thinking with that at each different stage of your chronic illness that you might find yourself in. But I want you to know, again, through planning and through being proactive instead of reactive, the possibility of finding those ways to ease those financial burdens are out there. So we're going to go ahead and go to our next slide. So the wellness wheel is a very great foundation for overall wellness. So this kind of transcends very well into the stages of life with multiple sclerosis. Um, it depends on where you're finding yourself. As you see in the screen, the four stages of multiple sclerosis. You have the initial phase, the early, where you might have just somewhat of a barrier disability, then the moderate, and then of course advanced. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and kind of really get into my groove of mental health and wellness. Guys, whatever stage you're finding yourself in your multiple sclerosis, the first thing I want you to consider is giving yourself a little self care and a little self love. Um, it's okay to be shocked. It is also okay not to know what to do next, to think that life as you know it has ended forever. I won't not tell you that it's ended. Why not reframe that and say it's changed? It's not going to be what it was, but how can it be better? Or how can we look at it in a manner of what is my future holding? I don't want to sound like a cheerleader because I'm not. But one thing I can let you know is if your perspective changes for the better or in a more positive light, these challenges of chronic illness can be handled in a way that brings you true empowerment and a lot of support for the people that are around you. And I have a slide that we're going to speak on in just a little bit also on caregiving, a caregiver for someone who has a chronic illness. Guys, it takes a team. That sounds so hokey, but it really does take a team. It takes a team getting together, forming a good partnership through any stage that you're in. Um, and also, guys, in your initial and early stages, this is when we need to become our own advocates. Uh, because if you don't speak, then sometimes your choices are not heard as well. So, because you have so many people wanting to do the best for you, anywhere from your physicians to your MS team, to your family, to your coworkers. Because honestly, guys, at the initial and the early stages, they, except for your medical team, they really don't know what they can do to help you. So this is where what can I do for me? In my support group that I run for chronic illness, one of the things that I really encourage people to do is reach out, like you guys already have with MS Canada. I had the opportunity to really explore the site. And as a professional and someone who has worked in vocational rehabilitation and as a counselor, I was very, very impressed with the sites. There are so many things on your MS site that I strongly encourage you to look at. So, in these first early stages, I guess I'm wanting to encourage you guys to get your feet on the ground as best you can. So, one way of doing that and how do you become an advocate is you become educated. You read everything, you look at things, you kind of become your own expert in your disease process. A lots of times when I worked with COPDers while in the ICU setting, one thing I would encourage them to do is to ask that physician if they do not understand, right? Um, where people are speaking for you, you can get that time of going, whoa, it's going a little bit too fast. Can you stop? I need you to back up and I need to explain to me again because guess what? You're in charge, okay? So as you look at number 3 and number 4 on your ladder and advanced times, I really want you to know then also those early days of being teaching yourself and educating yourself on what's out there to help you manage your multiple sclerosis or your chronic illness will help these stages. And not only, again, I keep repeating this, help the people around you to achieve what is best for you at the moment and to live a most productive life as possible. So, our next slide is one that I really want to take a moment and slow down and talk about. So, with any chronic illness and with multiple sclerosis, you see, I have MS and grief. So, don't you guys kind of agree or think about it that when someone tells you you have a chronic illness, your life immediately kind of freezes, right? It's like you're going, well, wait a second. Everything was just fine the other day, and I got plans 2 months from now, and my daughter's wedding is in a year, and oh my gosh, I'm just now retiring, or hey, I'm having my first baby. All of a sudden, that freezes when you hear those words. So, why I'm bringing up grief is because grief is existing. Grief is like it says, it's the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you love is taken away. There's a lot of fear in that. There's a lot of negotiating to that. There's a lot of anger in that. So I believe when you are working through and finding ways to make your life manageable with a chronic illness, go ahead and accepting that you are grieving what you once had. And that's okay to do so. I'm sitting here looking at these slides, and, there's a part of me that I wish I could see your faces right now. Because when you can connect with somebody looking at each other, you can read things in about people or learn about their responses. And this is such a very serious and a very important topic to your overall well-being, is understanding it's okay to grieve what you once had. Because, mental health and mental wellness, those you are going to be sad at times. And that's when you give that self-love of going, that's okay. I'm grieving what I once had. Um, Also, with grief, especially in the first, well, all stages of MS, but especially in the first two, is, how do I handle these unexpected emotions that I have, right? How do I go from shock and go into anger so quickly, and then just this overall sense of emptiness? So at this point, I do want to bring up something called the cognitive triangle. So why I'm bringing this up while we're talking about grief is because how the cognitive triangle works is how you think about something, what your thoughts are, really do affect how you feel and how you act. So I want to let that resonate for just a few minutes. So you have this news, you have a chronic illness. And let's remember one thing about grief. Grief has no time frame, right? Some people go through the grief process and get to acceptance very quickly. Some people live with grief their entire lives. Some people learn to manage it in ways that grief is still existing. But one thing is unified with that is how you think. What are your thoughts, right? What are your thoughts about what you once had? What are your thoughts on how you're living your present? Because when you have a chronic illness, it's not a label that you wear. You choose what your labels are, right? So in the cognitive triangle, what is thought is very important. So don't forget, thoughts affect how you feel, and then of course how you act. So let's go to the next one, feelings. So the same thing applies. How you feel is going to affect how you think and how you act. So are you seeing how overall wellness, overall good mental health, striving towards those goals are so incredibly important? So my gosh, I'm so incredibly sad that I have this chronic illness. Oh, the dang thing. I'm thinking, how bad is this going to be for me? And then, acting is how am I going to behave about this? How am I going to pull forth my inner strength and, oh, I love this word, resilience, right? So the next can't talk. Excuse me. So the next aspect of your cognitive triangle is your behavior, right? So your behavior is affected how we think and how we feel. So not only do we have our wellness wheel that we look at, and every aspect of that wellness wheel incorporates our balance in life, so does our cognitive triangle of our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors. So, guys, I'm going to always encourage y'all as y'all learn how to manage through your chronic illness that you acknowledge that missing what you once had is okay, but utilizing a positive and acknowledging a cognitive triangle is so very important in learning how to swim these seas of a chronic illness. So here is something very passionate, very, very, very passionate in my heart, is that role of a caregiver, right? So I have a note here that says a caregiver is a person providing emotional support, spiritual support, and physical care. So one thing I have seen as in my many years of service working in a hospital setting, working in a non-for-profit working with barriers and disabilities, and then working in my counseling practice, is a sense of responsibility that the person with a chronic illness has towards the people that support them. Why I use the word responsibility is, they didn't choose, you as an individual did not choose. Y'all didn't say, oh my, yes, me, I want to have a chronic illness, because this is something that you didn't choose. This is something that has occurred. So a lot of times, the individuals I work with carry a lot of heaviness, they carry a lot of guilt, they carry a lot of being an imposition to those around them. And that's really far from the course, because the caregiver is there and they want to be there. The key that I've found with caregiver wellness is that caregiver becomes that teammate to that individual or family member that has a chronic illness. So we're already talking about how do you, as a person suffering from a chronic illness, prepare and make sure that their overall wellness is good, is that you pull that caregiver in. Early communication, talking about the things that scare you. Hey, a caregiver, this is a job that is not usually applied for, that is like having a second job, and it doesn't pay, right? You don't get compensation for it because it's a loved one. You're doing this because you love the individual. One thing that I have found with any caregiver that I've ever spoken to that comes to see me is that they absolutely, it's fulfilling. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes they do get a sense of being overwhelmed. How do I do everything and get everything done? Well, one of the first things that I encourage if I have some caregivers out there is to acknowledge, guys, you can't do it all. There is no way humanly possible to touch on everything you need to do and do it to the best of your expectations. So planning early and getting a network set up of other family members, of other community members is so very important. Then the individual with a chronic illness, this is where that communication is so very important. It's the openness, again, of being that advocate for you, telling yourself it is okay to reach out for help. Those are one of the things that are so very important. Now, I just heard some people out there go, oh, it might cost some money. It might be this, how can I afford it? This is when you look at great sites like you have through MS Canada, looking and researching what support groups are out there. A lot of times, community centers, a lot of times, churches or other places will provide the opportunity of getting together, When I worked for the non for profit, now I'm stuttering. It was great when I could put different people together, and all of a sudden there was a support group, right? All of a sudden they had ideas on, hey, this is what I do to meal prep ahead, right? Or this is what doctor I found gave me great recommendations on where I can get supplies, right? So there it goes back. You're going to get really tired of me hearing advocacy and creating a plan and communication and just being allowing yourself to make this kind of a second job, right? When I say a second job, is maybe a different career path because you have no idea by your research how you're going to help somebody else. So, to my caregivers out there, you guys are doing great work, but your wellness is so, so important. You cannot, I repeat this, you cannot pour from an empty vessel. And it's okay to say, hey, I'm tired. I need to look into getting some respite care. It's okay to say, hey, I think I want to go and play pickleball, or I'm going to go outside and read a book, or I'm going to go outside simply and sit in the sunshine. So, you guys, don't forget your wellness of your caregiver. It's so important to formulate that good and strong team. Okay, so here's another thing I'm passionate about. So if you guys want to get out your pens and pencils, I know this is being recorded and you're going to be able to see it again. But I'm going to get on my bandwagon what I feel about this topic. Workplace success with living with MS. So, guys, these are great resources that I really want y'all to go have some fun with. I want you guys to go explore and look at it. It doesn't cost any money, it's absolutely free on both of these things. So, the first one is JAN, capital JAN, Job Accommodation Network. This is a leading source for individuals with chronic illnesses, individuals with barriers, especially wanting to go see what's out there for going back to work. Why I absolutely adore this site. When y'all go into it, you're going to see it. It's easily laid out, but it's particular sections for employers, it's particular sections for individuals, it's particular sections in there for people in the healthcare field, people who like counselors as myself. But once you dive into that, it is so much information concerning the rights of the individual. How do you go back to work? How can you help that employer realize that an accommodation doesn't cost a lot of money, or give them ideas to provide accommodations? Also, guys, let's say if your mobility is you're starting to lose mobility and maybe you need to find some way to type better on your keyboard. You can find it all there. Um, I got to play with Jan. When I say you see me, you're using the word play because it is so many fun things on there that you start having aha moments. You start going, this is doable. Or, hey, Jan has referred me to look at X, Y, and Z. That's why I say that on that site, it has never failed me. A lot of times, when I keep saying that word again, advocate, you have to be an advocate for yourself. You can be an advocate learning from Jan, going to your caregivers, to your MS support group, and going, hey, I discovered this. So, Jan is one of those things that is an early form of empowerment. Whew, there's a good word right there. Guys, with a chronic illness, empowerment sometimes is forgotten. And Jan is one of those sites that kindles and encourages that flame of being empowered, right? Lots of times when you find yourself in a chronic illness, people don't mean to, or your mindset causes you to feel like you're not empowered. That, I used to love to do this for a living, or I used to love to read books, but now my sight isn't as good as it is. Jan just is there to show you you can, and it's absolutely free. Just about every client or customer I work with, I encourage them to go to this site, and then I ask them to come back and talk to me about what they discovered. And when I send it to them, lots of times they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I'll look at it. I'll look at it." But so, and then when they come back to me, they are encouraged. So that's what I love about Jan. ONET is the next one. It's the Occupational Information Network. This is also a great site for all people, not just people with chronic illness, barriers to employment, but really, I'm not kidding you guys. I look at ONET every once in a while because as we change, as we age, or as new things come into our lives, our interests change, right? So ONET is one of those things that help you discover some new interests for employment, right? So it's there for you. It's a very, very easy, free site to go to. When you go to that site, the very first thing you want to, when you go up to the main page, look to the far right, and it's going to say something like, "This is what I want to do," or "What my interests might be now," and take a very simple little, quick questionnaire, and it's going to provide to you some great information. What ONET also does for you is when you put a job in there that you might like, or interested in a field, when you put that information in, it will provide to you every information, every technical need, every certification, everything about that job will be told to you. So if you start researching something and you find, "Hey, I don't have the credentials to do this," it will also let you know where you can go and get it. It also provides you a range of what kind of payment you can receive in that field. So again, ONET is a great place to look when you're looking at changing jobs or wanting to go back into the career field, and it's universal to anyone. Okay, so we're going to go to our next slide. All right, so we're getting towards the end of our presentation. And so I want y'all to do a little lotus flower activity for me, okay, for me. So, oops, there's my slide. There it goes. So, guys, I I hope I get welcomed back to and speak to you guys. But one thing you got to remember is being quite honest and transparent with people, right? So, guys, I'm going to be very honest. This is my very first webinar, right? And so it is an honor to be here with you guys. But let's look at this lotus flower. This is why I actually picked this, because when you have a chronic illness, or you have something that you're going through that's new to you, that you're going to have to rise above from, that you're going to have to find that inner strength, that courage to keep going, that determination, and really tap into your resilience. I use the lotus flower when I talk to my customers and my clients all the time, because I want to read this to you. If mud doesn't exist, mud, guys, mud, neither would the lotus flower. Likewise, if bad situations didn't exist, strong people wouldn't exist. So, no mud, no lotus. Your struggles are enhancing your natural inner strength. I want that to resonate with you for just a second. Your struggles are enhancing your natural inner strength. So here's how we can try to look at that cognitive triangle of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, right? I don't know how many guys have seen a lotus flower, but they're a beautiful flower. But they have to have mud and icky water, and at night they fold back up and they actually go back down into the water, into the mud. And the next day, when the next day comes, they pop back out and they open up and they're fragrant and they're beautiful. And each petal of that lotus flower, I like to use it when I'm in session as a symbol of what your strengths are, what you have inside of you as a resource. That how you take an icky situation, a situation you never planned for, but you turn it into something beautiful. Um, if you can try your hardest to see the faint light and the beauty of the day through murky waters, then you will soon rise above your circumstances and bask in the sun. Now, guys, to some, I know that sounds really hokey. I know it does. I know it does. But when you're faced with a chronic illness, the one person you can rely on is yourself. You have great people around you, you have great support, but your overall wellness is what's going to carry you through. All right? So I'm looking at it, we have about 22 minutes left of this seminar. So I'm going to ask you to do this little visualization with me. So wherever you guys are, I would like y'all to get still. And I would very much like you guys to shut your eyes if you're comfortable. If not, just lower your gaze. I want you to go ahead and kind of feel your chair or your seat under you. I want you to kind of get a sense for your environment. Is the temperature just right? I want you to take a moment and I want you just to feel the breath go in and out through your nose. You can take a deep breath if you want, but you don't have to. So I want you to come into this space. And when you're ready, I want you to shut your eyes. I want you to imagine that you are that lotus flower. So I want you to think what color your petals might be. What are the colors? What are the scars on that lotus petal? I want you to see it at first closed up. I want you to see the stem. And then I want you to imagine that beautiful blossom is going into that murky, muddy water. I want you to think as it hits the water, and now that it's submerged, what beautiful things are going to come from that the next day. Now remember, your lotus flower is all yours. It is all yours. It's your colors. It's your trials. It's your chronic illness, right? But that's what makes you up. So you choose its beauty. So now I want you to imagine that lotus flower coming in and coming up out of the muddy water. You're stronger for it. And as the sun hits it, that lotus is blossoming. And each petal that opens is a different part of your chronic illness, different part of your MS. So as it's opening, you're starting to see that beautiful color shine in the sunshine, sparkling, in fact. Look how sturdy that lotus flower is. It's hard to break a lotus flower. They're very, very strong, in fact. So it's in full blossom now. I want you to see it. I want you to look at it. I want you to notice the petals that might not be perfect. I want you to notice the petals that are the perfect color. I want the lotus flower in a way to become a symbol of strength for you. To know that every night it's going to rest, it's going to recharge, it's going to come back to see another day even more beautiful and stronger. And then again, I want to end with this and this activity this way. As in, you're soon going to rise above and you're going to see that the circumstances are only going to make you stronger. Okay, guys, when you're ready, just come back to me in my voice. Thank y'all for this activity, and I hope you can use it in the future. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank y'all for working with me through my very first webinar. It has been a pleasure and it's absolutely been an honor. And I hope that I've answered or gave you guys some ideas. And thank you guys for letting me be there for you guys. Okay, so are we now open for questions?
Presentation. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell people that MS Canada has partnered with SESH, and through therapist-led, community-driven mental health platform, it offers over 200 monthly virtual support group sessions that individuals can sign up for and participate for free. There's a variety of topics that could be covered during the support group sessions, and that includes anxiety, depression, and grief. These virtual support groups provide a confidential and safe place for individuals to come and talk about shared life experiences, possibly talking about solutions to the challenges that they're facing or other wellness strategies to help them enhance their quality of life. So on our website, you can find more information and the registration information by typing in the search SESH, SESH, and you will get that information to help you find how to get involved. So now we do have a few minutes for some questions. I wanted to note that joining Christina right now to possibly answer some questions is her co-worker from SESH, Patrick Rowley. And I hope I said that right, Patrick. But welcome, Patrick. Okay, fantastic. So for the Facebook Live audience or the Discovery Campus audience, please type your questions into the chat box, and we're going to get to as many as possible. So I'm going to just flip over to the questions. Okay, so the first one I have here, if you're in your early stages of MS, so step 1, diagnosis or recently diagnosed, and you're applying for a new job, should you be disclosing? So what are some suggestions for disclosing that you have MS early on in the disease?
So I want to answer it this way. Jan will be very helpful also for you to research that answer. And that was a very, very good question because you're right. That is something to consider when you're applying for a job. One thing that I usually tell my customers is you don't have to disclose unless you want to. Some employers will discriminate against you by thinking that you're going to cost them a lot of money hiring, if they hire you. So one thing I would do is kind of go through your first interview, research the company or research who you're going to work for, and that'll provide to you the opportunity to make an informed choice. And, I'm not going to say to you that it does or doesn't make a different disclosing. It's one of those things that you're never going to get a straight answer really from anybody because it's up to you in making that choice. I can't think for that employer. That's where educating yourself, becoming your own advocate, learning how to explain your disability. Real quick, I do want to say this. If you do want to disclose your disability, one way you could do it is by giving an example of how your employer could give you an accommodation. So you're taking the work away from that employer by saying, like if I was in a wheelchair and I needed a certain height desk, I would say, okay, yes, I am in a wheelchair. What I have found works for me in my other jobs was simply bringing 4 bricks from outside and raising the desk up. So if you give them an accommodation idea, you're taking away their fear of hiring you. So I hope I didn't evade that question, but that's how I would like y'all to kind of consider that. Patrick, anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I think it reflects back to the wellness wheel. It takes a lot of time to research jobs, apply for jobs, interview for jobs, onboard. That's a lot of your time. I think it would be important, as Christina said at the beginning of her presentation, to do that research into the right cultural fit for you as a professional. You should feel empowered by that process. And when you're meeting with the person that's interviewing and potentially offering you the job, you would hope to gain some clarity on the type of culture that exists within that business, that they would welcome somebody that experiences the needs that you may have as a way to improve the business, because you can add some different perspectives that people may have never considered. So, kind of reflecting back on your strengths and your ideas, components of resilience in that process to add some significance to your experience in the onboarding process. Make sure to find that right cultural fit so that when you approach the process, it really is intentional and meaningful to you.
I would like to add one more thing to that, and I'm going to throw out the word inclusion. Um, is educating yourself as the pending new employee, and again, here's that advocacy is inclusion, and what can I bring? So, absolutely, learning the culture is so very important.
Thank you. Okay, this is very basic. What does SESH stand for?
It's
Standard acronym?
it's really yeah, I can jump in there. It's just a brief way to say the word session. So it's just a play on that word. Um, we offer a variety of different virtual group support sessions on our platform, and they vary in length from 30 minutes to 45 minutes, to the majority of them being 60 minutes. But when you reflect back to that wellness wheel, once again, that Christina mentioned, there are sessions that relate to chronic illness, but there's a lot of other experiences that you may have as an individual who experiences MS that could fit other sessions that we offer on our platform. So, as you do some research on the type of virtual group support sessions we offer, make sure to keep an open mind to see what kind of sessions could work for you.
So, is there an ability for people that are coming to your platform to maybe make suggestions for topics for a new group if they don't find the group that best meets their needs when they first come and explore?
Yeah, of course. That's my role. I'm the director of clinical operations and programming. So the sessions that you see on our website and on our app, they are created from what we kind of review and research as a part of the clinical operations team. But equally as important in the research that we do is the data that we gather from our facilitators and our very own members. It's extremely important to meet the needs of the people that are seeking out our services. So if you have ideas or there's a gap that you feel exists in our session programming, we're extremely open to the feedback that you're willing to offer so that we can create new avenues to support your mental health and well-being.
That's
Sorry about
fantastic.
that.
Thank you. Now, another question is, so are there specific groups or sessions, as they're identifying here, that are just for caregivers?
So we have had sessions specifically for parents in the past. We do have some sessions that I think ran in previous months. They haven't demonstrated to be the most successful on our platform, but once again, if it suits the needs of our members, then we want to offer those sessions. So we've had sessions related to in parents that have children experiencing chronic illness, parents that have children experiencing a mental health need. We've had sessions on divorce. We've had sessions on just the idea, the concept of being an empty nester and your children leaving the house. So we have the ability to be extremely flexible in the sessions we offer, and we feel that parents are an important piece to that equation.
I'd like to add, and one reason, and one reason why am I'm participating with Sesh, and this I am so happy to be part of it. But a lot of times in our sessions, a lot of suggestions will come from our participants, and it's just one of those things that you're heard as looking for support for others. On the broad spectrum of this presentation, sometimes it's very difficult to find support groups for caregivers of people with chronic illness. So that's where the individual has to kind of seek them out and find them. And SESH is one of those opportunities that maybe in the future, y'all could find what you need if you're looking for a specific support group. But that's where you just got to put your boots on the ground and start looking for it. And, you never know. Maybe you be that one that starts that support group in your own community. So.
Okay. All right. The last of our questions. Christina, how would you compare the support in groups versus individual therapy?
So how do I compare support groups to individual therapy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, a support group is what the word stands for, support. So as a facilitator, I'm not running a group session where I'm putting in different theories in place and working on that aspect of therapy based to improve mental wellness. In a support group session, it's really laying in the hands of the people in the group. So exchanging different ideas, finding different resources. So the facilitator is one that just kind of connects people together. And if we're on a topic that runs in a good course of a direction, then you're just kind of piecing it together. But actually the members are running the group. As a support group, I'll tell you kind of like what I did, like I tried to do in this session with Jan and Onet. That's kind of how a support group goes. Hey, you need to go check out this site. Miss Flora, I really am going to go back and look at your site on MS. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I hope that answered your question. It's just connecting different people who have different ideas, different perspectives, and different solutions. And difference of individual, if I was doing individual VR counseling, it's pretty much the same thing, except I'm doing it one-on-one. I'm doing a lot of behavior training. I'm looking at what are our strengths opposed to what are our weaknesses, and then what accommodations can I locate for this individual to help them be successful in daily living and in the business world. So it just comes down to how you look at things. Where there's a will, there's a way. That's why I love my thing about you just change the sails. Wind's going to blow. Well, how can I change the sails? So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we don't have any additional questions. So let's wrap up our webinar. Thank you very much, Christina and Patrick, for your involvement today, for answering our questions. Again, if you want more information about the SESH program offered through MS Canada, you can go to our website and in the search bar, type SESH, and you will get the information about this free program, but there is an application to sign up so you get that free access. All right. So as we wrap up today's broadcast, I want to remind you about the MS Knowledge Network. This network is staffed by trained navigators who provide consistent, quality information and support. So whether you live somewhere in Canada, or we know that more and more people are reaching out internationally to access accurate, up-to-date information and support, you're welcome to connect by phone, email, or live chat through the MS Canada's website. And please know that all of the interactions are confidential and the information is trustworthy. MS Navigators can help you learn more about the programming and resources we offer. Plus, they can help you find other community or government supports and programs, and can also get you signed up for our monthly MS Canada e-newsletter that comes directly to your email address every month, and it's full of motivating stories about people who are living with MS. It talks about our fundraising. It talks about our programs and services. It's just a really great tool to keep you informed and up to date. We want you to be part of the MS community and encourage you to get involved with our programs, services, events, government relations, and volunteer opportunities. These days, connecting with each other is more important than ever, and more information is available on our website Brand new website as of May, www.mscanada.ca. Do you want? Yeah, thank you. If you have questions or need support for this webinar or any of our education activities, you can reach out to the education team by email at education@mscanada.ca. And on behalf of MS Canada, I want to thank you for tuning into today's webinar. We wish you all the best. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if you need information or support. And have a good day.